Are you ready?
You are listening to NetSupport Radio, the home of our award-winning school IT management solutions. NetSupport, all the elements for successful school IT management.
I've got Al Kingsley and the brilliant Mark Anderson in the studio, with us. Really good. You've both colluded, if that's the right word, on the most superb document. Just tell me a little bit about it.
So we collaborated and co-authored a guide to creating a digital strategy. I'd like to think that both of us aren't arrogant enough to go around telling schools what they should be doing, but what we've done with the guide that we've written together is to try and create a document, a helpful document that schools and leaders and members of SLT and teachers and all sorts of stakeholders within the school can sort of grab a hold of and use to help them shape their vision for digital in the schools. There's loads of great advice in there.
I'm not at all suggesting that we are from that position at all, but in a day and an age where the kind of strategic vision has become too expensive for schools, they can't buy that service in. Local authorities in lots of counties around the country are now ceased to exist. All of the people there have now got themselves other jobs, and that kind of vision and that direction that schools used to rely on, well, that went a few years ago, so I think it's timely and appropriate. Al, what was your thinking behind this project?
Well, I think Mark's touched on it. It's great collaborating together. One of the things you've just highlighted there, Russell, is when there's uncertainty, particularly when it comes to funding, often other types of strategies get put on the back burner because you can't see further ahead. And what we recognise is, from listening and talking with lots of people, is a digital strategy isn't a commitment to get somewhere in a week or a month or a year. It's having a sense, firstly, that it's co-produced by all the right stakeholders of where you want to get to, and then some things like the funding and the resourcing and staffing dictate the pace you can go there. But there are so many schools that have committed to short-term investment without thinking about the long-term, about whether that really fits as part of the strategy. And we've massively seen the other challenge, which is, it isn't just about buying the right software or hardware, it's about creating the environment in terms of training and culture that actually means that can have some form of impact. And I guess, as we're always learners in this process, pulling all those ideas together in one document to benefit others seems a really natural thing, and I think we're really both chuffed with it.
Good. I think you've involved the right people. It's not too lengthy, I have to say, because once upon a time the department would always kick out a document similar to this, and it would be, you'd need almost a sack truck to bring it into school, and then of course these things sit on the shelf and no one ever uses them. It's light, it's agile, it's portable, it's a nice collection of resources, and you've spoken to lots of different folks, Mark.
Yeah, what we tried to do with it as well, to try and make it a bit more manageable, is break it down into easy, manageable chunks. And at the end of each of the different chapters, there's a sort of top tips, suggested things to really sort of dig deeper into once you've sort of gone through all of it, to give you a pointer to highlight the key things you should be expected to look at in each of those different areas. So we found that really, really helpful. And the feedback we've had so far has been absolutely stellar. We've been so buoyed and humbled in many ways by the feedback we've had from teachers from, not just in the UK, interestingly, but abroad as well. A teacher from Dubai got in touch yesterday on Twitter and said that, like a wizard, it arrived at just the right time to help her with her digital strategy in her school.
I think your timing is absolutely, no one should underplay that. The timing is absolutely spot on. I have just become so personally frustrated and fed up with seeing tweets on a Sunday night. We've just got 30 iPads. Does anyone know what we should do with them?
I still get them now, Russell, and it's like, well, yeah, go back in time and think a little bit. And I understand how schools can get into that, particularly at the sort of February, March time of year. Where there's a bit of money left at the end of the school year in the budget, they have to spend it quickly. I can see how those sort of things can come about, but the best way to do it, and particularly when you're thinking about sort of getting bang for your buck as well, maybe linking with some of your, if you're not in a MAT, actually linking up with some of your local schools and forming a purchasing alliance. You can get some economies of scale on some of these things. Like we were saying before, it goes back to that banana principle, isn't it? You can have all this great kit, but it's not what you do, it's the way that you do it that's really important when it comes to thinking around technology. What we're trying to do with this document is give people the right thinking and research and experience so that you can make choices that not only have impact but also provide value.
I think you're absolutely right. Al, do you think that historically our purchasing cycle, the way in which funds disappear from folks' accounts in April if it's not been spent, are those almost contributing factors to the fact that this happens like this?
I think so. I mean, I think there's a simple measure, typically 7-8% of your overall funding. If you're sitting there at the bottom line, it gets taken back. And with public money, we're looking and saying, if you want to spend wisely, it shouldn't be about the timeline, do it quick before it goes or anything else. It's about making those wise decisions. I mean, Mark's hinted at those points there. It's about collaboration with other peers. It's not about get the kit and then decide what to do. And I think our guide was not intended to in any way diminish any of the stakeholders in the process, whether it's finance, IT, teaching staff, Syncodes and so on. But there is and has historically been perhaps a driver where finance have been the starting point of an IT strategy about what's available. And that isn't really the right way around. The right way around has to start with teachers and students and what's actually going to have impact. And then all the other parts, stakeholders, are there to help support, facilitate and challenge. Is it going to be the right decision? But once you've got that buy-in, we all know any kind of strategy, if all the stakeholders are in, you've got a much better success of it moving forward. And I think, I've certainly learned quite a lot on the way as well, and it's lovely collaborating and putting that together and then feeling like you've actually saved other people that same exercise in going out and discovering themselves.
Mark, how useful was your teaching background and the fact that you've become incredibly well travelled and incredibly popular on a worldwide stage? Because I just look at my calendar and you're speaking all over the place. But people clearly want to hear more about it. But how useful was your kind of grassroots teaching practice in this?
Absolutely 100% important, because people often see these things as being technology projects, and they're not technology projects. They're teaching and learning projects. And having been through the sort of pain points and doing this thing myself in my professional career, whilst in post as a teacher, a middle leader, senior leader, these sorts of positions, that gives me the background to know what often works. There's no magic silver bullet. One thing that works in one school doesn't necessarily work in another. And that's why we've taken that approach with the guide as well. It's a guide to creating your digital strategy. It's not, here's our digital strategy for you to go away and adopt. It gives people the information and research that they can then use to go away and create their own, being mindful of all the things they need to think about, from data protection to privacy to infrastructure to all your stakeholders, so forth and so on.
And it's been very well received. I was looking at some of the comments that Ty was making, Ty Goddard online, just very enthusiastic and a contributor to the document itself. All three of us have contributed to the Big Debate video series, which if you've not listeners found that on site, there are links on my website, links on Al's, and certainly Mark's always tweeting about it as well. Might this come off the page into video format at some time?
I think it's highly likely it will. We're going to be publishing it as a takeaway document at BET this year, and you'll be able to come along and Mark and I will be presenting about the topic and hopefully sharing some of our experiences. We decided initially to keep the document digital because we're adding to the back of it that we've put lots of useful links for people and products and guides that we think would be supportive in the process, and I expect that will probably grow over the next few weeks, and then we'll print it. And then I think, to be honest, it's a perfect example of a topic that we could debate, bring some other friends around the table that we know can add value and experience, and I think that would be a really useful one to pull together. I think the important one with it is, as Mark said, we wouldn't be as arrogant as to suggest we have all the answers, but I think actually the starting point is coming up with the right list of questions, and that sets you on that journey. So as we hear some of those answers, I think it's important that we add them into the guide as well.
Absolutely brilliant there. So where can folks get the guide now? Because obviously we can't wait till Christmas if you want a printed one, and of course you will be then, but I want it now, I want it in my hands. Where do I go for it?
The easiest way is to go to netsupportsoftware.com/digital-strategy, although there's a link on the main page. If you follow NetSupport on Twitter or any of ourselves, Mark as ICT Evangelist or Al Kingsley Edu, you'll find plenty of tweets and references to it. So the guide is completely free, and it's something that we'll be evolving together in the coming months.
Brilliant. It's a very exciting. I'm truly and honestly excited about it. It reads beautifully. It's just perfect in language I understand. I loved it very much and immediately fell in love with it. So lots of support there as well. On another note, what's going on with you at the moment? What's latest? Where are you off to?
Well, Cardiff today. I'm here at the National Education Show here in Cardiff. I've got my children with me. They're on half term. So that's my sort of first and foremost things for the next week while they're doing doing that. But I'm working locally, just up in Nantgarw at a college there, doing a big inset for them on their first day back after their half-term break, doing their Learn Fest 20, which would be a great day out. And then sort of we get into the build-up towards BEST. I'm sure you're getting a lot of things you're getting set up with before the big week in January. But yeah, I've got some work across in the Middle East coming up in a few weeks, down in London, doing some more writing work. Speaking to my publisher about my second book, getting that up and running and sorted. So lots of things in lots of different places. Thank you, Russell.
Pleasure. We're so honoured to even have access to you. And I think just because you're local as well, not half term, which is really
You say this. I mean, I remember, way back when the Southwest Conference over at UE, and I was seeing the likes of yourself and Andy Hutt and Tim Rylands presenting. Don't undersell yourself, Russell. You've been an inspiration to me and to many others for many years.
Oh, you're too kind. I know when I'm humbled as well. Mark Anderson, thank you so much for joining us. Al Kingsley, thank you so much indeed. Good luck with the publication. This is hot. This is absolutely hot. And we'll post the link as well on our Twitter feed, and it'll be on there as well. It is. Singe your fingers on this. Listeners, you need to get this in your hands pretty quickly. Some great ideas in there. And as Al said, may not have all the answers, but it's certainly got all of the questions. Gentlemen, thanks very much for joining us.
You are listening to NetSupport Radio, the home of the award-winning NetSupport DNA Suite with Russell Prue.
His shows are so professional. Just the